I want to take back everything I said about Gareth Edwards. I said from Monsters, which I saw the moment it came out on DVD. A lot of people I trust talk that movie up a lot, and I saw it and I said, this guy's going to be one of the most talented filmmakers of our time. I'm taking that back right now. Godzilla was okay. I said, no, he's still learning the ropes. I'm sure he'll get his grip together. Like, Godzilla was okay, but I'm expecting a lot more from the guy who made Monsters. And then Rogue One was it. He's a huge Star Wars fan. He comes out with this Dirty Dozen-esque movie, room to play here because he's not constrained to what has to follow in the canon. So he's got room to play here. And I think I absolutely hate Rogue One. I think I've just walked out of the movie. Maybe I've got too much expectations on Gareth Edwards. I wanted this to be great. And it wasn't at all. The characters were rushed through. There was no characterization at all. I didn't care for any of them. The choreography, that is my biggest complaint, which we'll get to. It's like a 13-year-old kid choreographed this movie. It looks fantastic. Gareth Edwards, the biggest thing he's got, his visuals are incredible, and his decision to use as much practical effects, like what J.J. Abrams employed in Star Wars Episode 7, has paid off, because Rogue One looks absolutely fantastic. It's such a pity it was directed by a very, very poor craftsman. And the biggest example of that, like we saw in the trailer, I Rebel, which is probably one of the worst lines, worst readings I've ever seen in a trailer. People were cheering, they told me, when they saw that, and I was just, are you kidding? That's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. It's so corny and cringeworthy. I don't recall ever seeing it in the whole movie where she goes, I Rebel. I think they took it out, probably due to the negative response from certain critics. But the biggest scene that shows how poor Gareth Edwards is as a director, I think, is when they're all talking about whether they should engage the Empire or not. Should they engage in battle? And a lot of them decide not to. If you look at the cutting, the choice of coverage he has, the actors, I think all of them are good. They're directed very poorly. The musical cues when they come in for an emotional line is just shocking. Absolutely. He's relying so much on the musical cue to give it so much more emotional impact. And then it comes to a crashing halt when the captain gives his speech about, I've been doing this since 6 years old. I've done horrible things for the rebellion. It is so badly done. I had no investment in anyone, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was like directed, it was so amateurish. I feel bad because I feel like a lot of people got to comment really aggressively, a lot of Star Wars fans on our Facebook or whatever, but I'm sorry, I was so frustrated in this movie.
See, I get to play the other side of this now, where I was in it for the nostalgia, and I feel like it touched on so many moments and lines. Even you had Saul Guerrero say it's a trap, and my audience didn't react at all, but I felt like there should have been a reaction.
My friend doesn't like you. I don't like you either. Did you notice those two?
Yeah, they got a nice moment. That was nostalgic. As well, we got a, Admiral Akbar looking guy who wasn't Admiral Akbar, but, same species. Radish, I think was his name. Or Radis. Jimmy Smits popped up just in the corner there when after they're having their whole speech, Bail Organa sort of just casually steps into frame. And
he's
you're
from
like,
episode 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah, that's right. And he, will later be destroyed on Alderaan when the Death Star, used to its full capacity to destroy the planet. That's Leia's father. And, each kind of moment where something happened, C-3PO and R2-D2 popping up, I was like, yeah, constantly reminded. However, I feel like I've just come out of it. I'm probably not looking at this the same way as yourself. When The Force Awakens was on, and we discussed that at length, I really felt like that had a lot of nostalgia, but wasn't as great as it could have been. This, I feel like, was exactly what it should have been. And as I said last time when we were speculating about what would happen in Rogue One, they basically killed everybody off and they didn't play it safe. Look, let's talk about Kevin Smith. I saw the same thing you did, which was that he's loving this film.
This is the last time I ever listened to him on movies. He actually said Rogue One is on the same level as Empire Strikes Back, something to that effect. And
I'm not there on that either.
No,
That's a big
are you
claim.
kidding me? Like, I understand getting hyped up. You've just watched a movie, and he's a celebrity. He's got a lot of friends who are probably in this film or working on it. You know, so he's talking it up. Oh, great work, guys! Yeah, it's amazing. Come on, geez, you really want to say that? Put it on the same level as Empire Strikes Back. I think in a few years you'll be, I was going with the momentum of the crowd, but geez Louise, I'm just not going to trust him ever again. When it comes to movies.
Well, we'll get to Vader and how much Vader is in this film later, but don't you think that one of the major problems of the original film is that everybody complained about the fact that there was a weakness in the Death Star?
Yeah.
Everybody said, oh, why would you build the Death Star? And it has that one weakness. Oh, if you fire those 2 shots in there, the whole thing explodes. Ridiculous. Everybody questioned it. Doesn't this now justify that?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And that repairs, if you think about it, holes in the original trilogy. The character of Galen Erso was being forced to be the architect of the Death Star, and I did wonder about his qualifications, and I didn't really get much on his backstory, just that he's
a very
required...
strong actor they cast for that as well. Like, there's a lot of guilt and remorse in his performance as well. I think he was probably the most thought about character in this film.
I mean, they don't cast Star Wars for the actors usually, but even Felicity Jones, she'd come off of The Theory of Everything, and both her and Eddie Redmayne have stepped into bigger roles and bigger franchises, and they're now, A-list, are really, from nowhere. It's the same as Gareth Edwards. He had that, this is his 3rd film. It's $200 million for Disney, it's a huge, December movie. He really got some training in Godzilla because those AT-ATs, that whole sequence, that was reminiscent of some of his work on Godzilla.
And how fantastic did it look?
I mean, I felt like when that one gets shot in the head by that missile launcher and then turns its head back around, it had life, it had personality beyond the fact it was a droid.
What he was able to do in Monsters with that budget constraint is remarkable. Like, Monsters is a terrific looking film. I think, in my opinion, the CGI has dated really well, and he blends CGI with he always keeps a good story going at ground level. There's still characters to hold on to. I just feel Rogue One is so overcrowded that we didn't get one backstory other than the main character's father. I don't know any of the characters at all. Like, the captain has one spiel. He's been doing it since 6. And then they try to eke out a relationship between the two at the end. It's just, I'm just thankful they didn't kiss. Did they kiss? I can't remember.
They didn't kiss, no. I mean, it really felt as if they were just kind of soldiers together, and hugging at the end was okay.
Yeah.
I'm as well. I'm glad they didn't kiss.
Oh, so glad.
The whole final shot of them holding each other with the light pouring over them, though, that was pretty full on.
The whole build-up in that fight sequence was pretty good. If he had the characters and that weight where you felt the loss for each one, it would have been so much greater. You would have felt the loss of each in the Dirty Dozen. A far superior film, by the way, if you guys get a chance to watch it. You feel the loss for each of them as each of them goes down in the mission. You're like, oh, that guy really liked that character, because the film allowed time for you to grow attached to them. There's some you hate, there's some you love, and there's some you like, but you feel something as each character goes down in the climactic moment of Dirty Dozen. Here, we didn't get enough moment with each of the characters at all, I feel, and especially the pilot, which should have had the best backstory. What's the deal with the squid? Trying to eke out if he's for Forrest Whitaker's character, that he's actually telling the truth. I mean, the guy has a disc with, and Forrest Whitaker knows who the guy is on the hologram, saying that there is a flaw in the design of the Death Star. Why send a squid to make sure he's telling the truth? And then he gets I think he's brain damaged slightly for the rest of the film. I don't know. That was so muddled there. But that character should have been one of the, a really good backstory developed for him. But when he dies at the end with the grenade going into the ship, I didn't feel anything at all.
I can see where you're coming from. I think Poe in Force Awakens and Finn basically has that kind of traumatic backstory that is missing here. And I have no idea what that squid was. I honestly, that was one of the strangest things in the film.
Yeah, like a lot of the interesting characters were introduced with Forrest Whitaker's group, and they all just die in the end anyway. And I love the saying, you have the rescue the cat moments where the main character, Felicity Jones, Jin, rescues that girl from the stormtroopers.
Yep.
And but it's all in vain anyway. Pretty much that whole city dies from that blast from the Death Star.
Yeah, I think she should have been a little more selfish, and maybe then when she wasn't selfish at the end, that would have paid off a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely.
That she was now a team player.
That whole sequence in the city was so badly choreographed. I'm going to get into this right now. What makes it interesting for the characters is if they struggle or some effort goes into their... if they're engaging in battle, there's got to be some effort to it. There is too much power given to Donnie Yen and his other character, the guy with the gun, and also to Jin Erso. They're too powerful. They take out stormtroopers left and right. It was on par with how badly the action was choreographed in episodes 1, 2, and 3, where the droids were just getting cut up left, right, and center. In episode 7, it really felt like all the stormtroopers were a threat, how they were taking position and they were shooting at all the good guys. They just felt real, and they just had actual choreography to them. In this one, the blind guy just beats them all, and I don't recall anyone cheering in my cinema at all when Donnie Yen starts beating them up, but I can imagine some cinemas going, yeah. To me, it was so childish, it was so overpowered. And he actually shoots down a TIE fighter with his handgun. Why not just send him out against the whole Empire and him take out Legion after Legion? It was so ridiculous. I can't believe somebody's sitting in the editing room going, are you guys serious? Like, this is so ridiculous. There's no threat here. And if there's no threat, there's no drama. If there's no drama, I do not give two shits about any of these characters. And I'm just so shocked at the death they give him. He just walks out, against what was probably the best troops in this world of Star Wars, aside from Darth Vader, which were those black troops that escorted Ben Mendelsohn. They seem to speak in a different language, but those guys were the only ones that seemed like an actual threat to... the choreography, man, was all over the place.
Yeah, well, the fight scenes and stuff, I mean, you really have to suspend belief. I mean, he's blind, as he says when they put a bag over his head. Are you kidding me? I'm blind.
What about the gun his friend has? He guns down Legion after Legion. Why not arm everyone with that gun?
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, the two of them were supposed to be monks guarding the crystals that were, used originally for lightsabers, which were being mined for the Death Star. So their backstory is very limited, but as we see them in the street, they're just kind of hanging out. I didn't feel like their relationship was all that. That wasn't developed very well. There wasn't some kind of, he saved my life once, I owe him a life debt, or, something of that nature. That probably would have helped. But that whole sequence where they're fighting around the tank and, she saves the cat, if you will. All I wrote down in my notes there was Jin can fight, blind man can fight, and stormtroopers can't shoot still. Because, I mean, it was borderline ridiculous, the amount of kind of shots and stuff they got off. And the fact that the blind guy could live. I mean, you have to put it down to the Force. That's the magical mystic, you're going to hate it, but that's the magic of Star Wars, isn't it?
In episode 7, Poe is the best pilot, right? Once he gets into an airplane, into a fighter pilot, an X-Wing, he can gun down like heaps of people, but see how much he suffers and struggles? Like, he gets tortured, he gets beat up, and it just makes the Empire more of a threat, and you care for Poe a little bit more than any of the characters presented in Rogue One. It really pissed me off. I liked the robot. He was my favorite character, but just how effortlessly he just picks up a grenade and throws it, and he's just like, oh my gosh, why don't you just program 20 of these guys to protect you? Why doesn't each one just walk around with one of those bodyguards?
Like the Terminator. You know? I mean, that would have been helpful. I'm guessing they're hard to come by. Did you see the blue milk in the opening scenes?
Oh, no, I didn't.
So little Jin, who we meet, No Star Wars scroll at the beginning of the film, by the way.
Yeah, I noticed. I was like,
It was
oh.
odd, yeah. Threw me. Her dad, her dad and mum basically hide her from Ben Mendelsohn's character, Krennic. And on the table, just as they're sort of evacuating, there's blue milk that's been poured, which is, another one of those little nostalgic nods. I don't know why she had a stormtrooper doll, though.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
Yeah,
Like
I noticed that as well.
that seems strange, like she was a fan of the Empire. I mean, the other nostalgic stuff, they had, she was on her way to a labor camp and they rescue her. And they had that same sort of, I'm Luke Skywalker, I'm here to rescue you kind of feel without saying that sort of iconic dialogue. And as well, they had the whole shenanigans later where they have to get dressed up to infiltrate, like in the same way Han and Luke had to dress as stormtroopers. There's a lot of kind of attempts here. Certainly, you must say there's attempts at nostalgia, Lloyd.
But I think one of the biggest mistakes they did was the CGI on the original characters. I know a lot of people will defend this heavily, but I'm not for CGIing an actor who has passed away, and they did that for Peter Cushing. I don't agree with that. I just think there's just a bit of bad taste there, and I understand that from a Star Wars point of view, a fan point of view, they're like, oh no, it has consistency and everything like that. But I would rather them just cast a different actor playing the part, and then we would have understood. Okay, that's supposed to be, Admiral such and such.
Tarkin, maybe?
Tarkin, yeah.
Look, Tarkin, just on his character, I thought it was really interesting that he decides to destroy that city at the end.
That was awesome, yeah.
Just the Scarif it was. He knows Ben Mendelsohn's character, Krennic, is down there, and he's kind of eliminating his competition because he knows Krennic had that audience with Vader. He knows the two of them both want to be in charge of the Death Star, and he casually is like, destroys it, right? Destroys the city. I wish there was a line, like a throwback, or something that Krennic had said, like, well, that's too bad then, isn't it? Or something that he could have said in that moment to make us know that he was being sinister. Because I think something was lost. It was there in the eyes, but maybe they needed to spell it out a little more that he was doing something quite sinister.
Did you find him believable, or did you find it very distracting, the CGI?
I kind of went with it.
I
gotta be
hated
honest.
it. I thought it was as bad as Tron Legacy.
See, I haven't seen Tron Legacy. I did feel like this was supposed to be a very smart, sort of clever film. And everybody knows the story ahead of time. You know what you're getting when you're going into the film. And what I found interesting was they kind of spelt out right to the door of A New Hope at the end of this movie, and we'll get to the Vader stuff, but they get the Death Star plans literally into Leia's hands. And they say, what have they brought us? And she says, hope. Roll credits. They literally deliver to the moment. We get exactly to where we need to be for episode 4. There's no room because it's like a week before leading up to episode 4. And I thought it wouldn't spell it out so much.
Yeah, no, I would have exactly preferred what you're suggesting here for those troops to get away, and we just see Darth Vader hacking away in the distance, and we see that shuttle fire off, and we could just piece it together in our heads. I'm shocked we didn't see C-3PO and R2-D2 in the ship as well. Just you might as well go the whole 9 yards.
They may have been behind, like we didn't notice. We've just watched it,
Yeah.
I didn't see either. All right, let's get on to Vader. First appearance of Vader. He's in the tank.
And Sonic was bothering me about him as well as Sonic about his suit. And then I realized, it's from episode 4 because he couldn't actually turn his head or anything. And because episode 4 had budget constraints. And then once they got to Empire, Star Wars was obviously a massive, massive hit. They were able to refine the suit and everything like that. It took me a while to get there.
Yeah, no, it was kind of the neck, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He kind of had no neck.
That's exactly right. But it's not consistent with episode 3, I think, because in episode 3, I think he had the refined suit.
That's right.
When he goes, no.
What a classic moment that was.
I blanked it out.
Yeah. So Vader, obviously we get him in the tank. We see him very slightly without his mask on. Then we get the one scene he has with Ben Mendelsohn's character where he force chokes him and he says, don't choke on your ambitions or something to that effect. Be careful not to choke on your aspirations. That's it. We get a couple of shots of him on the bridge, like prepare a party, things like that. But about 8 minutes of screen time. And how did you find that final sequence where he's mowing down the rebels?
It was a bit over the top. I wanted to be cheering, but at that point, I was really disappointed in the movie. But I probably would have preferred if they just backed off a little bit. Maybe if we just, like we see him slashing away, defending all the lightsabers attacking him, maybe hack one or two guys, and then we just see the shot from the door, and then the guy handing him the card, take it. I just thought it was a bit too
melodramatic, maybe?
Yeah, too melodramatic, too over the top. But I know a lot of Star Wars fans would have been cheering at that moment. Yes, we finally see Darth Vader. You know, I actually would have preferred if we'd seen Darth Vader at a ground level taking out all the Dirty Dozen team, Donnie Yen and everyone, just him down there and.
Yeah, having an impact.
Yeah, I would have preferred that. Like if a ship just sent down and goes, oh, we've sent in Vader, and just one guy with a couple of red knights come in, then he just takes out all of them.
That's kind of like the gameplay on Battlefront, isn't it? Where...
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's kind of what I was alluding to.
Yeah, no, I'm down with it. But
no, good pickup.
The city gets destroyed, so Vader has to like run away.
Yeah, run away or something like that. Yeah, get away. But I would have preferred that to have that little compared to that little moment where he's just slashing away in that little ship.
Well, I did feel like lightsabers were missing. It didn't feel like Star Wars without lightsabers.
Yeah,
so
that's a good point, because you had the air battle, you had the some of the rebellion team versus stormtroopers, but you didn't have a hand-to-hand battle scene.
That's right. Well, I mean, Obi-Wan wasn't going to turn up. He has to stay hidden and obviously trains Luke in Episode 4. And, we don't have Alec Guinness anymore.
Do you reckon it's cool how they powered up the power? We find what powers lightsabers in the Death Star?
The crystals. She has one of those crystals around her neck. I thought at some point maybe she was going to plug it in to a lightsaber or something. I also kind of thought maybe Donnie Yen would have a lightsaber. I was thinking at some point somebody's going to pull a lightsaber and we're going to say, whoa, that person's a Jedi.
Yeah.
Even if they don't survive.
Well, I think Donnie Yen's more powerful than any Jedi that's ever been presented.
He didn't need a lightsaber, did he?
No, not at all.
He was, I don't know, Daredevil-esque. When you have like a blind character who's just using sense, I felt like maybe we were going to have a scene where it started to rain, and because it was raining, he could feel where everybody was based on the droplets.
Yeah. That's a great idea.
At least that didn't happen. Well, I mean, Jyn is reluctant, much like Rey was, much like Luke was. She doesn't initially want to join the rebels.
And her father does die from the rebels as well, which is interesting.
Yeah, and when you said Donnie Yen's character shoots down one of the planes, it's lucky he didn't shoot down an X-Wing. Because they were all just flying around.
I wish they just cut that. They didn't have that at all.
Well, I can't help you, man. They've obviously cut a bunch out of this. For me, I didn't hate it because I kind of had that nostalgic feel. But I can't say that I loved it. I kind of wanted more from Diego Luna's character, Andor. I kind of wanted him to either be more like Han Solo or, I don't know, flip, maybe defect. I wanted something of a character development from him. He was just helpful the whole time, and he didn't assassinate her father, which I didn't particularly feel anything then, like, oh, what a nice guy, I did keep on waiting to see Han Solo in this, because I assumed that the casting of young Han Solo was because they needed him to appear in this film in a cameo. But that never happened. When you get young Han Solo, you also get Chewbacca. Maybe you get young Lando as well, who's also been cast, Donald Glover. So I kept waiting for that appearance, which never came. Obviously, because this is only days before she gets the plans, I didn't realize it was so close to the events of A New Hope. We would need Harrison Ford. We wouldn't get young Han Solo out of this. So he was never going to appear. He's been cast, and that's the next kind of prequel film we will get.
Oh, I'm really rattled, Dave. I'm very scared of where they're going to take Star Wars now. Like, I thought Episode 1, 2, and 3, there was no recovery from that, but it kind of has an authority to it because George Lucas, the original author of 4, 5, and 6, did it, so you can kind of give it a pass, kind of. Episode 7, I liked, although I hated how much it's not great, as you say, because it retreads so much of episode 4, and it plays it so safe a lot of the times. But I had a really fun time watching it at the cinema. This I found so frustrating. So I'm just really worried where they're going to go with Star Wars. At this moment, though, it does look incredible. Like Star Wars, it matches the modern mechanics of CGI and everything with the old practical special effects, and it looks amazing for it.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Check out our podcast at www.podmeifyoucan.com.